I kept asking myself, how come the Eagles are always hated? How come they're always doubted? How come they're always disrespected? When you have a Super Bowl ring with 145 diamonds for the 145 postseason points, NFL record, by the way, to go along with 4 straight wins, to go along with a beatdown of the Chiefs. When you play your backup quarterback in the Super Bowl, it's going to ruffle some feathers because the Eagles beat the brakes off the Chiefs so bad that Kenny Pickett was in the game. So now I know why they behave. Now I know why they hate on Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni and A.J. Brown and the defense and the whole city of Philadelphia because they're salty that we did something they did not think we could do. So when I see that Super Bowl ring, what do I think to myself? Ha ha, they wish they had this. They wish they had this. And that's why they hate him, bro. Because they hate, because they jealous. They hate because they jealous. So when I see Jalen Hurts get his name engraved on the ring because he was the Super Bowl MVP, it makes me happy. When I see Nick Sirianni and his quote, tough, detailed together, engraved on the ring, it makes me feel good. When I see the Chiefs getting blown out, that score 40-22 with their 22 garbage points, it makes me feel better. And when I see best of all, when I see the Commanders get a double nickel on they had in the NFC Championship, it makes me feel so happy. Man, oh man, it was a blessing. It was a treat to witness the 2024 season with the Eagles getting that Super Bowl ring. I don't know about y'all, but I can confidently say that I've seen my squad get 2 Super Bowl rings in my lifetime. If you're 30 and under and a Cowboys fan, you don't know what it feels like to not win a Super Bowl, to not get to the championship, to not get to the NFC championship. It's so funny to me. And the Eagles in the last 7 years, they get that opportunity to go out here and see that, achieve that, and witness that. It's amazing to see. So now I understand why the hate is here. But some of the hate, some of the disrespect, is flat out wild. And it does get to a certain point. Now, I was on a flight from Egypt to New York. I had a flight from Egypt to Turkey. That was like 2 hours. And then a 10-hour flight from Turkey to New York. This time, I decided I'm just going to go to sleep and watch movies. I'm not going to use the internet. And of course, when I get my internet back, when I land, I see some BS on my feed. It's Cam Newton go on record and say Jalen Hurts is not a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And his reasoning was he's not asked to be elite the way that Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, they're asked to be. Cam Newton is flat out hating. And it's no coincidence that he made that statement the day the Eagles were getting fitted and seeing their Super Bowl ring for the first time. So while Cam Newton is out here hating on Jalen Hurts, hating on the Eagles and saying that he's not a top 10 quarterback, Hurts got his name engraved in a Super Bowl ring because he did something that Cam Newton did not do. Both of those guys lost in the Super Bowl, but only one guy came back and got his revenge. So I know why that guy in Cam Newton, he's upset. Because he wished he had the career of Jalen Hurts. That's the reason why. So it makes sense. It's jealousy, it's envy, but it's sad. Because if you say that Jalen Hurts is not a top 10 quarterback, you're being disrespectful. You're just flat out hating. Because it's no way you can say that. Look, I got Hurts top 2. But you can debate on the top 5. If you want to say Josh or Lamar is 2 or Burrow is 2, that can fluctuate. We can debate on that. I feel like at minimum, if a guy just won the Super Bowl and just won MVP in that bowl, I think he deserves to get that 5th spot at the minimum. Plus, he got an All-Pro, multiple Pro Bowls. He has a great winning percentage. He has 14 plus wins twice. He been to the bowl twice. He outplayed Mahomes twice. I think that should get somebody that 5th spot. Once we get past the 5th spot, I think it gets a little bit disingenuous and a little bit disrespectful. Now, if you want to say Matthew Stafford, I disagree, but I can kind of see where you're going. Even Jaden Daniels, I could see, all right, you're projecting. You think that if Jaden Daniels had this Eagles squad, although I don't play in hypotheticals, all right, I still think 8 is kind of crazy, but all right, we can debate, even though I don't think it's a debate. But you know what I'm trying to say? Like, we can, it's more takes like that. When Jalen Hurts is compared to the Jared Goffs, the Dak Prescotts, the Jordan Loves, the Baker Mayfields, the Justin Herberts, that's when it gets Trevor Lawrence. That's when it gets disrespectful. That's when I have to look at you and be like, you're either a Cowboys fan, you either hate Philly, or your girl like Jalen Hurts. That's what it's got to be. Because there's no other valid reason unless you're Cam Newton and your salty Jalen Hurts got the bowl and revenged his loss, unlike you, because you did not go for that ball. What have we always said? Jalen Hurts would have went for that ball. I can understand. So I understand where the hate is coming from. But it gets to a point where it's like, do you have any self-respect? Do you have any integrity, any dignity about the game? And are you going to call it what it is? Because you know it's bad. You know it's bad. If Dez Bryant is coming to the defense of Jalen Hurts, you know it's bad if a Cowboys legend is out here saying, all right, bruh, y'all treating this man like Trent Dilfer. When we've been telling y'all Trent Dilfer don't got an all-pro. Trent Dilfer don't got multiple Pro Bowls, multiple 14-win seasons, outplayed Patrick Mahomes twice. He ain't got that. Y'all be treating him like he's Jimmy G. Can we relax? Like, damn, bruh. It's already crazy to have him outside the top 5. But outside the top 10, it's either jealousy or envy. It's both of those. They're the same basically thing. Same thing, for real. Talk about A.J. Brown. I went on record and I said this. You're telling me A.J. Brown is the 5th best wide receiver in the NFL? What the hell? A.J. Brown is the best wide receiver in the game. In my argument, I gave reasons as to why. Because I've seen A.J. Brown on the biggest stage deliver time and time again. I stand by that. Now, some folks look at that clip and they say, well, you're acting like wins are a wide receiver stat. I'm not saying that. But if you get to the bowl and perform at a high level in the bowl, that certainly helps your case. When you got three All Pros, three Pro Bowls, you got two straight 1,400-yard seasons. Last season, he had 1,079 yards in 13 games with a 16 yards per reception. That was amazing. A.J. Brown did not drop a pass last year. He had 11 missed tackles on one-on-one coverage. That's the most in the NFL. So when you look at all those stats, being an all pro, being a pro bowler, his sustained level of excellence, do you know that A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts have a combined record of this? Of this. I'm about to get this John right here. 43-9 when both of those players play together for an entire game. 43-9. That's an 83% win rate, including 6-1 in the playoffs. Their one loss is to Patrick Mahomes off a game-winning field goal. This is a unstoppable duo. So it's not crazy to say that A.J. Brown is the best wide receiver in the league, because the other quarterback and wide receiver duos in this league have not accomplished what Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown have accomplished together. It is not a coincidence that A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts have a 43-9 record when they play together. It is not a coincidence that they had a 6-1 record in the postseason together. So if you have Jettas, I feel you. Cool. I feel you. If you have Jamar Chase, I'm going to argue heavily against it, just because I feel like if A.J. Brown had the amount of targets that Jamar Chase gets, he would have broken Calvin Johnson's record for receiving yards in a season. A.J. Brown would have 2,000 receiving yards, because last season, A.J. Brown only ran 323 routes, less than half of Jamar Chase's 680. So I could really come to the assumption that if A.J. Brown, who is the only wide receiver in the top 20 with less than 100 targets, still in the top 20 for receiving yards, I could deduce from that if he got the targets Jamar Chase gets, oh my gosh, he would put up some crazy numbers. But what's it called? It's called sacrifice. It's called knowing your circumstance. You got Saquon Barkley, who is having an all-time great rushing season. You have a dual threat quarterback, and y'all pass the ball the least out of any team in the NFL. And clearly, it was for a good reason, because you won the Super Bowl. That's all we're saying. Now, if you want to say Justin Jefferson, cool. Like, I'm not going to really argue it too much with Jettas, just because Jettas is on an Hall of Fame all-time great trajectory right now with some bum quarterbacks. I'm just sorry. But outside of Jettas, what is we talking about? And I'm going to give it to A.J. Brown because of him getting that bull and all that too, with all of the statistics and the awards he got with that as well. I think last thing I want to talk about is Kelee Ringo. Kelee Ringo is going to have to step up next season, because given the Eagles' schedule, somebody got to step up as that cornerback too. You got Ringo against George Pickens, Chris Godwin, Darnell Mooney, Deebo Samuel, Devontae Adams, Jordan Addison, Jameson Williams. The Eagles got a schedule, y'all. It's not going to be a piece of cake. They got a damn good schedule to face against. And so we know what Quinyon Mitchell is. He showed up in the biggest moments, especially in the playoffs last year. But he's also a rookie going into his second year. Keely Ringo, a later round pick. There are some expectations that, like, you ain't got to be Darius Slay for sure, because Darius Slay is a guy that, is a fringe Hall of Famer at the very least. But you don't want it to be a crazy drop off from what Darius Slay was for us last season. So it's going to be on Keely Ringo to hold his own against George Pickens, Chris Godwin, Jameson Williams, etc. Because that's where the Eagles can get hurt. That's how they were very, very dominant last season, because you had Quinyon holding his own. You had Darius Slay holding his own. Now, the thing with Cooper DeJean is either going to play safety or play outside or the nickel, depending on Keely Ringo and or Adoree Jackson. If those guys are really what we expect them to be, then you're going to see Cooper DeJean playing that nickel. But also, if Andrew Makuba and or Sidney Brown, if they step up, you're not going to see Cooper DeJean play safety as much as he was. So that's what it is. So we'll have to see how these other guys do during training camp, during the season, during preseason. We're going to cover that to see where Cooper DeJean lays. But it all falls back to Keely Ringo, because if Keely Ringo is the goods, this offense won't skip a beat. It won't. And time will tell whether or not Keely Ringo steps up to the plate. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. It is Real Talk with MJ, where I know I'll always keep it real. I'm out, y'all.